Welcome back to Magic Game World. If you're the kind of player who spends way too much time obsessing over supply chains or watching a tiny village turn into a massive empire, 2026 is basically looking like your dream year. We've got a massive wave of strategy and simulation games on the horizon, so today I'm breaking down the absolute best city builders and colony sims you need on your wish list right now. We're covering everything from ultra-realistic modern sims to Roman steampunk and even some underwater stuff, so let's just get right into it. If you're sick of fighting with those rigid, annoying grids in most city builders, you have to check out Citystate Metropolis. It's landing sometime this spring, and the big hook here is limitless freedom. The devs basically threw the grid out the window, giving you total control over zoning, building footprints, and even parking spaces. Under the hood, it uses a crowd-based simulation instead of individual agents. That might sound like a technical detail, but it basically means you can run a city of over 1 million people without your PC turning into a space heater. You're playing both the architect and the governor here, so you'll be designing beautiful neighborhoods while dealing with the messy reality of things like gentrification and urban decay. But if skyscrapers aren't your vibe and you'd rather build with marble, Roma is the one to watch. Releasing March 26th, this one has you leading a band of citizens away from a crumbling empire to build a new sanctuary. The engineering here is easily the coolest part. You aren't just plopping down buildings, you're literally reshaping the land with massive dams and aqueducts to move water around. The water physics are a huge deal, and you'll need them to keep your soil fertile. Just don't get too full of yourself though, because you also have to keep the gods happy. If you ignore your temples, you might find yourself on the receiving end of some serious divine wrath. Now, if you want to trade that Roman marble for the dusty trails of the American frontier, Westlanders is taking the genre in a pretty wild direction. Instead of starting with a fixed town hall, you start with a customizable wagon. You'll explore an open world, fight off bandits, and scout for that perfect spot to stake your claim. As you grow, you'll go from living out of a wagon to running massive ranching outposts and settlements. It's got a heavy focus on economic networks, so you aren't just building a town, you're basically connecting an entire valley. It's a really cool mix of survival adventure and colony management. Of course, if the Wild West isn't far enough for you, we can leave the planet behind entirely for possible one, Lunar Industries. Arriving in the first half of the year, this is a hard science lunar colony sim. There's no sci-fi magic here, just real-world tech used to mine resources and keep your people alive against radiation and zero gravity. The real stress, however, comes from the corporate side. You aren't just trying to keep your colonists happy, you're answering to a board of directors back on Earth. If you don't make them enough money, they'll cut your funding and shut the whole operation down. It's a brutal balance between human survival and corporate greed. Coming back down to Earth, or at least into the canopy, we've got this incredibly unique game called DarkSwitch. Releasing March 12th, this is a vertical survival builder set on a massive 200-meter tall tree. Since you're building on a giant trunk, you have to build up, not out, using zip lines and stairways to connect the different layers of your settlement. You're constantly defending against a deadly creeping fog that hides all sorts of monsters, so there's a heavy tower defense element where you use light and fire to hold back the dark. Honestly, the vibe is what sold me. It's got a folk horror setting and a soundtrack by Akira Yamaoka, the legend behind the music for Silent Hill. If building on a tree sounds a bit intense, you can head all the way back to the Stone Age with Humanica. This project follows your settlers from 10,000 BC all the way to the Iron Age. The gameplay is actually turn-based, which is a neat twist for this genre. Each day acts as a turn where you have to be as efficient as possible with your resources. It plays out on a hex map where you can actually manipulate the landscape, literally digging out mountains or building them up to suit your needs. If you like that just one more turn feeling, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Speaking of survival, things get even heavier when you add moral choices into the mix with Drownlight. In this world, civilization has been swallowed by the ocean, and your colony is built around a single lighthouse, humanity's last beacon. This is a radial city builder, so you expand outward from the light. The core mechanic is simple but stressful. Keep that lighthouse fueled. If the light goes out, the darkness moves in and people start vanishing. You'll have to manage food and fuel while surviving brutal storms, but the hardest part is the leadership. Survivors will show up on rafts, and you have to decide who to save and who to leave to the waves. Switching gears away from the doom and gloom, let's talk about rebuilding a martial arts school in Eastern Era. Releasing March 26th, this is a Sect management sim where you're a leader trying to rebuild your school in a dangerous open world. You aren't just building structures, you're cultivating people. You'll recruit disciples, train them in kung fu, and help them master secret techniques. You can be a peaceful diplomat forging alliances, or a warlord conquering the region with your army of fighters. If you're a fan of wuxia or old-school martial arts movies, this is basically a dream come true. If you like that idea of building a legacy but want a steampunk twist, keep an eye on Nova Patria. This one is coming early in 2026, and the premise is wild. What if the Roman Empire never fell but instead discovered steam power and the New World? We're still waiting on more gameplay footage, but the idea of managing industrial supply chains with the classical Roman look is such a cool concept. It's procedurally generated and focuses on that satisfying loop of innovation and expansion. If you like the idea of centurions running steam engines, you definitely need to get this on your radar. Finally, to wrap things up with something a bit more chill, we have Life Below. This is a refreshing change of pace because instead of building with concrete, you're building a living ecosystem. Dropping around the middle of the year, your job is to restore a dying ocean. The story is actually written by Rhianna Pratchett, so you know the narrative is going to be top tier. You'll use the ocean floor to build coral reefs, manage pH balances, and clean up oil spills to attract over 40 different species, from tiny crabs to hammerhead sharks. It looks like a beautiful, relaxing, but still very strategic way to round out the list. That's the lineup. From vertical tree cities to martial arts dojos, 2026 is looking like a massive year for us strategy nerds. I'm personally really hyped for the water engineering in Nova Roma. But what about you? Which one of these are you adding to your wish list first? Let me know in the comments. If you found this helpful, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Magic Game World for more strategy and sim news. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.